$5 books, $10 books, prices marked, a little more expensive books, cards, my display that I'm still working on, some magic in the back, some magic here, look at this, and the Vise packs, one dart, all of those I'll pack, boxes, more, some modern variants, graded. This is Saga number 1, 9.8. Hopefully someone wants it. First Thunderbolts, first Doom Patrol, my daughter's nice jewelry, my big display. Welcome back to Cards and Comics. So today I am going to be talking about my experience as a dealer for the first time in 2 years at a Comic-Con. So the Saratoga Comic-Con is come and gone. And this is my experience. So I did a little video where I kind of showed my setup and the show itself, and I hope you don't mind that. I'm not a professional photographer, and you know, I wish I would have taken more video during the show, but it was pretty busy, and I had, I don't want to brag because there was literally 4 dealers with comics there, I think. I think I had the best selection. That's what, people were telling me, but it's like saying you're the tallest, cupcake in the dozen, I was not, at most shows, I would have been a mediocre to good, let's say good diversity of comic books, but not top, 4 or 5 at a normal convention. This just happens to be a show local to me, and I know that there isn't a lot of dealers who come. I think there's other conventions this weekend. I haven't looked, but I know there normally is, and so maybe that's where all the good dealers were. So it's just me. There was some Golden Age and some graded books, and it was kind of fun because people reacted like, "Oh my gosh, you have an Avengers 1, that's crazy." And I'm thinking like, wow, when I go to conventions, there's like 30 Avenger ones at a good one. So, as a recap, so I'll start with first what I picked up or what I didn't pick up. 2, what I thought people were buying and looking for. Because I didn't move a lot of comics. I don't want to just say it was a terrible show and I only sold 2 comic books. No, I sold a high volume of comics. I grossed both days almost equal amounts of money, double what my projection was. So, I came in, having a certain number in my head, and I doubled that both days. So from that perspective, it was very successful. So, I don't want to downplay that it was a bad show. For me, it was great. I didn't have a lot of competition, so I did a lot better than I probably should have. Now, as far as pickups go, I bought 1 comic book at the whole show. And there it is. It's, if you've watched some other videos, I'll try to zoom out here. It's, Action 894. It's the Death cover. First Death, or one of the first appearances of Death in modern DC, or normal DC canon. So, really cool book. Really like seeing this, and someone's kind of it wasn't dollar bin because I did pay $9 for it, and but I felt like it was still a comic that I love picking up. So all the other comic books I got here were from a trade, and I did almost do a couple trades. I almost got Secret Wars 9 or 8, I forget which one it is. The one with the new Spidey suit, right? I'm really bad with numbers. I've got, these two books were part of the trade. So Avengers 29 second printing. So it's like first appearance of this character here. So I don't know much about it. I looked it up. It was like $30. Then the first Shuri series, which is a cool cover. And again, around 25, $30. And then obviously the big dog, the big book that I did trade a book for I got this bad guy. And there you go. It is obviously 361 Spider-Man and First Carnage in a 9.8. And I only have this in a 9.6. So really, really glad I made the trade. And I did trade some books I had doubles of. So I think the trade that was in this was like an ASM 300 Raw and a Mile Ultimate Fallout 4. It's a cash trade deal. And so I got this, and I think this is still a book that goes up and down so much based on speculation and what's going on with the movies. And if he shows up, in the next series of Marvel movies, it could do something. So this book, and again, but if you think about it, I didn't buy it. I got in a trade. And, so if you think about it, I went to a whole comic book show in which I made pretty good money. And I bought $9 worth of comics. So that kind of gives you the kind of idea of what I consider the quality of the books that, that I'm looking for. That was there. And I didn't get a chance to really look around too much. I saw some things that were there, like the G.I. Joe McFarlane issue. Some guys had a couple of those. But everything was pretty beat up, so I wasn't really interested in that. Now, as far as the show itself and what people were buying. And again, and I know a lot of people don't cross over my comic book and card videos. So I just did a box opening in 98 Topps Chrome, and I kind of point out that when I go to comic book shows, it seems like more people that are collecting stuff, right? Like I had multiple people, trying to complete runs of books that I had books for, and that was awesome. When I go to card shows, I very rarely, as a dealer, as I'm set up, or just talking to people, that people are going to say to me like, "Hey, I need that 72 Hank Aaron because that's one of the Hank Aarons I need for my Hank Aaron run." It's like, no, I want that Hank Aaron because vintage cards are hot and I can flip it for. So I had a lot of people coming up looking for runs, and She-Hulk, people were completing She-Hulk runs. And so I sold a lot of She-Hulk comic books. I sold Black Cat comic books. I had a really cool person come up, and she was looking for Black Cat books, and she had a lot of them. And so she had a list, and I had a lot of Black Cat books because I'm a big Spider-Man collector. And I finally got one she didn't have, but she didn't have enough money for it. And so I did, just take off, and said, how much do you got? And, I made her a deal for it because I got a lot of books that they're just books, and that wasn't one of the ones I considered to be special. It was just like a cool cover, Black Cat. I think it was from maybe one of the Kevin Smith runs. And I just, I was like, hey man, if you really want that book and you got $10 or whatever, that's good enough. It's selling for 20 or whatever. That's fine. And so that was cool to be able to help someone with the collection. Star Wars was there, people asking for Star Wars books, and I sold some. Spider-Man's always in demand. The biggest book I sold was an X-Men, 94, in a 7.5. I had a lot of people, the books that were graded that I had that people looked at the most, but didn't buy, was obviously my Avengers 1, Silver Surfer 1, and the Venom 1 Gold. And then I also have a Spider-Man 1 Silver signed by McFarlane. And then a Daredevil, first Frank Miller Daredevil, signed by Klaus and Frank Miller. So those books got a lot of looks, just tons of people wanting to look at those books, but no one pulled the trigger, and I wasn't really priced that crazy. and it wasn't really a pricing. It was just that, for the most part, you know, um, $200 to $300 books just weren't moving, fast. I did sell a couple books in those ranges, but just like three or four. And so it wasn't like I was selling high dollar. My $10 box. So I did a $5 box, a $10 box. I think you see it in the video. And I had a $5 box, a $10 box, and I had a box of priced comics, and then a higher grade box, and then kind of a display of some of the more hot, expensive books behind it. I sold my Strangers in Paradise 5.5 because I have a higher grade version of that book, and that was cool. I sold my Grendel 1 from Comico, so that was really cool. A lot of people coming up looking for keys from non-Marvel and DC books, and I have quite a few of those, and so that was popular. So, things that weren't popular, I sold very few ASM books. I thought I would have a lot more people looking for ASM books to complete runs. And, I had quite the range. I had older 70s, ASMs in good shape all the way to, current runs. And, I maybe sold two or three total. So no one was really after Spider-Man, in terms of, completing runs or just getting, books to have. I sold a lot more Avengers. I sold probably more Avengers back issues and Fantastic Four back issues than I did ASM, which was interesting to me. And I think that is a trend you're going to see. Just due to the fact that there's so many Fantastic Four books and Avengers books with these key minor characters compared to ASM. ASM doesn't have as many of these first appearance characters as those early Fantastic Four and Avengers issues. So that was something I noticed. That was interesting to me. Modern, I brought a bunch of Dark Knight Steel books. I speculated that people would be looking for those books because it's a hot new series. I sold one. I sold one King and Spawn book, or King Spawn book. I sold one Gunslinger Spawn book. So those weren't popular, even though I had them out on display. So, it was just back and forth. Now, on the card side, so I didn't bring sports cards. I brought, my Marvel cards, so lots of PMGs from 2017 Fleur Ultra Spider-Man, 2018 Fleur Ultra X-Men, Magic cards. So I sold $5 worth of Magic cards, and I had cards all the way from Alpha through, Urza Saga. I had unopened packs from, from Revised to Urza Saga, and no one was interested. In fact, I had one person ask a price on a Revised pack, and that was it. And and this has not been an uncommon experience. I'm not going to say it's dead. What I'm going to say is Magic is not popular like it used to be, to where flippers and people who just go to Comic Cons looking for good deals aren't looking for Magic cards anymore, even if they see them, right? Used to be if you had some Alpha, Legends, Arabian Nights, Revised, packs and whatever on your table, the flippers knew to go and say, look, those are, I can get something on eBay for them. Now they're not even looking at it. They're like, yeah, okay, Magic cards. No, they're not moving very well. And it's just interesting because I know that they sell, but it's just, they've gone not only down, but the demand just doesn't seem to really be there to where people just don't even look at them anymore. And the thing that was funny was I had my Urza Saga packs priced because I didn't look them up because I knew what I paid for them, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just get, I thought, okay, well, let's get $30 more, $40 more than what I paid. I look online and they're selling for like double what I priced them at. And no one even bothered to look at my prices and say, oh, well, you're like, half of what they're going for on eBay. Um, and so that's just interesting. That was like a big, I made a kind of a big pricing error, and no one even took advantage. I only had one pricing error in the whole show. And I was pretty happy about it because, my daughters were there, and one of them made jewelry that she was selling, which I was really proud of. But obviously when you're setting up, what happens is dealers come over and look at your stuff, right? And now these obviously aren't the big time dealers that you would see at normal con, so I don't take too much stock in it. But I had only one dealer buy a book for me before the show, and my daughter said, like, "Dad, all these people are coming looking at your books, but no one's buying anything." And I said, "Yeah, that's good, because that means I don't have things priced so low that the dealers are going to just flip them on their own table." And I made that mistake, and that was my most common mistake when I would set up at card shows and comic book shows. Was I would go in thinking like, okay, I'm like a bottom tier dealer. I need to price things really low so that I can move some volume and get, and because I'm going to always take this money and reinvest it somewhat back into the hobby and buy stuff I really need for my collection. And so I'm like, this stuff generally is stuff I want to sell anyway. So if I get, less than eBay for it and whatever, it's okay. But now I've taken the mentality now to price things where it needs to be, and then negotiate it down if you want to. But sometimes people will just pay whatever you have, and you make more, right? And to have the dealers come by and actually not buy anything but one book, was meant I was priced well. And as the show went on, and I started, because I didn't have everything priced at the beginning, but I started pricing everything, even the stuff in my boxes. Everything had a price tag at some point. And it just made the conversations go faster. So pricing everything is what you got to do. It's just how you got to be a good dealer. And it made things go smoother. But there was less conversations because, hey, what's this worth? And you tell them, and they give you that look of disgust, and you say, oh, it's worth $1,500. Like, oh, yeah, that's way too high. You're crazy. No book's worth that. I've had that kind of look a few times. Now, as far as the crazy people at the show, I only had one person be very aggressive and rude, which is a much lower rate than I get at card shows. At card shows, people are very aggressive on pricing, and and very, I think, rude about how they go about it. So I had one guy be rude. He brought a book up and he's like, "Hey man, it's just sold for $15. You got it at $60. You're way overpriced. I want this book, but you're way too priced." I'm like, I priced everything before I came to the show, dude, and then I looked it up and I was right on the nuts. And the guy was like, "Well, I saw one silver." I'm like, "Yeah, that's like 7 months ago that one book sold that you're looking at, and." As soon as I brought up the comps, like, "Oh yeah, I just didn't look at it right." I'm like, "Well," but yeah, just that always rubs me a little bit the wrong way. And I ended up doing, I sold some comics to the guy, and I didn't, react too much. But if you'd have pushed even harder or said even more, I would have probably just not dealt with that guy, because I just don't like dealing with people who are aggressive and just not pleasant to deal with, because I don't really need to sell a book that bad to deal with someone who's kind of a dick, and especially when I got my kids there, like, I don't want them to be like, "Dude, these guys are assholes. Why are you doing this? Why are you dealing with these guys?" So that was it. And my daughter sold some jewelry, and it was great, and overall, the market seems like it's very broad. Nothing, I can't just tell you, like, go out and buy, these books. I would say, based on that show, and based, like, the last show is that, Sandman was coming out, to Netflix, and it was, people were really excited about Sandman. Sandman, I sold some Sandman books, and people were still excited. I think, they're just waiting for it to hit. But, Silver Surfer, in this early Silver Surfer keys were very hot, and people were really interested in them. So I'd say that is still something that is undervalued in my opinion. Like Silver Surfer 4, 3, Mephisto. Just there's a lot of keys out there, and I think a lot of folks are going after them now, and I think that is interesting. So Silver Surfer books were hot across the board. Everyone was looking for them, and I did sell some basic Silver Surfer books from other, not the biggies, but other books that were cool. So that was one. And yeah, I mean, Miles is hot. Miles Morales is, anything to do with Miles is still hot. Variant covers, just, he's hot. So, I think that is the two areas that are still, I mean, it makes sense. Miles is still hot. And Silver Surfer. Back issues of ASM, again, weren't very popular. I did not sell any graded ASM books for the most part. I had a 50, a 129. It just, those, I had a raw 6. Those things just weren't, popular. People weren't really looking at them. Because I judge popularity based on what they look at. Like my Venom, Gold and my, Spider-Man signed by McFarlane got tons of looks, but those ASM books really had no one really interested in them. So that just shows you, that right now it's kind of on a little bit of a downturn for just ASM in this market. So yeah, at the end, kind of summarizing, kind of ending this whole thing is it was a lot of fun and a lot of work to get everything priced out and ready to go. And would I do this like on a weekly basis? Probably not. I would say, the most I'd like to do or these kind of shows would be like maybe once every other month, because of the amount of work and time it takes to get ready. Pricing changes so fast. I made one pricing error on a Wonder Woman book, the Milo Manera Italian museum variant. I was selling for 120. I sold it for 50. Which kind of sucks. So I just made one kind of big error there. But other than that, I feel like I was priced well. But it just took a lot of work to price everything. So yeah, it's a lot of work, and I think packing in, packing out, long boxes are just hard to move around. It's a lot of effort to get there, and so my family really helped. I really appreciate that. And so to do it once or twice a year, I think everyone's like, yeah, that's cool. If I said, hey, I want to do this like every week, they would tap out pretty quickly. I would probably burn out pretty quickly. So I think 6 times a year would be the max I could do, and once a quarter is probably more realistic. So, but anyway, that's the update. It was a cool con. Lots of stuff happening around me that I didn't get involved in because I just don't do the events, obviously because you're a dealer and you can't just move around. Look at my video. I'm right across from the soda guys, selling drinks. And at a Comic-Con, the soda guy is really busy. So I had a lot of traffic in front of my table. So I got a good spot. So that was cool. Yeah, and it was fun. So hopefully, maybe some of you guys were there and you saw me, maybe. That would be great if you did. And I wish, when I set up a couple more times at shows, people come up and say hi. I didn't really have many people talk about my channel. I don't think I have a lot of folks who know about my channel. And I'll work on some banners and better promotion in the future as well. So, all right, guys, that's it. That's my update, and I'll see you next time. Bye.